Pat was starting, huh? Sounds like. No. Morning, everybody. It's going to be a short day. There's really not a lot going on. What we have coming up as far as events, we have district meetings coming up in August, and kind of same format as normal. You end up talking to your district director. Jeff should be there. I will be there, or our new attorney. He'll be there as well on some of them. Hear some information, get some questions done, that kind of thing. So that's coming up. Lori, any other trainings you have coming up?
I do not have any trainings coming up. I might be at some of the district meetings. So we'll be there. Trainers will be there in their own districts if anybody has any questions for trainers. But otherwise, we don't have anything planned as of yet.
Okay. Yeah, and then just looking forward to the annual meeting, October, I believe, coming up. So that's really all we've got for events right now. It's been low key as far as anything going on. Busy, we've had questions, but hasn't been any one particular thing or particular topic. So kind of an odd time, I guess. Stuff going on, but it's not anything of a type of category or anything like that. So, well, do we have any questions today? Like we have a question, is there a list of trainers according to district? I don't think so. Laura, do you want to explain how the trainers, where they are and whether that matters?
It really doesn't matter. We can get a list of where the trainers live. What I was saying is, as far as being at the district meetings, it'd be in their own districts where they live. So whatever township they're with or whatever district they live in, they'll be there. I'm hoping to get out to most of them. I'm on vacation the first week in August, so I won't be at those first 4. But any other directors that want us to be there will be there.
Other questions? It's a quiet day.
Deanne has a question in the chat, Steve.
Oh, thank you. Our county, Scott, is considering having 10 townships contract for a building official. Do any townships have experience with contracting for this service? Well, anybody on today that has that experience? Doesn't look like it. There are a few places where townships have put together joint powers or something, like the Rochester area, or the Bemidji area. Mary asked, what does that mean? I assume they're administering the building code, and they're having the townships are doing it. And so you'd have to have somebody administer it. It's kind of like an element of planning and zoning. So you're taking part of the state code, and then townships don't have to do this, but some choose to. They will then administer some part of state code on structures. So in this, no, does Scott County have zoning at all? There's a county in the metro that has no zoning, like they don't do any zoning at all. So it's only locals.
They do, and they follow the Minnesota, and that's exactly right. Then we'd have to contract with someone they've been having problems hiring someone that will stay, probably because of all the issues that they run into. They just kind of get burned out. And okay. So it's just one of 4 options they're considering, but it kind of took us by surprise. We understand Dakota does this, so we'll reach out to them and get some help from them.
Do these 10 townships have a zoning ordinance then?
And we go by the county's zoning ordinance.
Then I don't think this has anything to do with you. Okay. So when it comes to zoning, you are either in or you're out, meaning you have an ordinance and you're going to administer the parts of it that you have adopted in your ordinance. And if you haven't, you have nothing to do with this, and you wouldn't pay for the building official. So I guess I'd step back and wonder why those 10 are even being approached to employ somebody. This would be like doing, try to think of something townships don't do, like hospital administration or HHS benefits administration. Well, townships don't do that. So it would be like the county coming and saying, well, we're going to have you pay for our administrators or our employees for those services. It has nothing to do with you. So if a township has zoning, they adopt an ordinance, well, then, yeah, they may need to administer this if they put it into their ordinance, if they're doing it. And then it would make sense for them to contract either directly or as part of a joint powers or something to do that. And that's the model you see when I mentioned Rochester and Bemidji. Well, the participants in it all have an ordinance, and that's why they're participating. So they jointly come together to employ a person because they don't have enough work to employ somebody on their own. And that's why they end up doing this. But for Scott, anybody that doesn't have a zoning ordinance, the first question would be, well, wait a minute, why would we employ somebody for that? And maybe bring that to the county. Why are you having us do that? That sounds like a county problem. Can you show us where it says we have to enforce it? Because I think they're trying to have you pay for something that isn't your problem. So I think that would be the first step. Those townships that do have a zoning ordinance and want to get a building official, they could do this jointly together with a city, with the county, however they want to do that jointly with the joint powers or something like that. So there's some threshold questions I think to ask before you just say, oh, we'll pay for this, or yeah, we'll agree to pay for that together.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Hey, Steve, this is Reno. Can you talk a little bit about the pandemic issue? What are you hearing on your end? My understanding is World Health Organization is still got us in a pandemic, and I haven't heard anything where CDC or Department of Health has cleared us. But what are you hearing?
I haven't looked in a little bit. Let me look at who real quick here. So with town meetings, we were able to use the pandemic provisions of the open meeting law to meet remotely as long as there's still a pandemic. And I don't think any of us are qualified to declare that. So I'm looking at organizations that do. The CDC and MDH had not declared it over or had not declared it endemic, but they just removed any reference. So it wasn't that it wasn't a pandemic. And it does look like World Health Organization still does list it as a pandemic. So I would say then that if you're going to do remote meetings and you still want to do that, that's fine. You're going to point to WHO and any other factors you can to show that, yeah, this is still happening and we still want to protect against it. We're still going to use the remote meeting portions. So I don't know how many are still using that. I think among the cities and counties, there's the belief that it was tied to the state of emergency and that it was done when there's a state of emergency, but there's nothing that's one factor in the open meeting law, but there's two factors and they're independent of each other. So what I just looked at was the second factor. So I think you're fine. Go to the World Health page and it's still listed as a pandemic. If you need to check that from time to time, but start planning for when you're going to be in person again too, because at some point it will be endemic and then those powers won't be available anymore.
Thanks,
The
Steve.
answer, yeah, you're welcome. Other questions?
In Goodhue County, I think most of the townships are doing in-person meetings, but I know the county is doing a high number of remote meetings yet for their functions.
I think remote is here to stay in a lot of ways in workplaces and in government. It's just a convenience. It's nice not to have to go somewhere. You can still get things done. And this way, we've used this successfully for 2 years now, so each has their place. People get strong feelings about whether they're effective or not effective sometimes, but I think the success of this thing in other counties, still doing remote meetings says, yeah, it can be done. So again, local choice, and that's part of being a township. You get your local choice on what you want to do.
Steve, I have a question. This
Yeah.
is Gussie Group.
Mhm.
I hope I'm correct on this, but I'm assuming that with remote meetings, even if you have one supervisor absent, votes must be roll call. Is that correct?
Yep. So if somebody's remote, you do it roll call. Anytime you got somebody online remote. And then remember, anytime there's a spending item voted on, whether you're in person or not, that's roll call too.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Other questions? Looks like that's it. So we'll do another one on the third Tuesday. We'll make sure Graham is there. If you're calling into the office and you get the other attorney, Graham Moberg, that's his name. Graham is started to pick up and learn, and he's starting to answer questions. So you may get him now, but he'll be on next week, 2 weeks from now, and introduce you guys to him. So, all right, sounds like it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Welcome.